Hey guys, this is Kim from It Again Bookstore. Today we're talking to Pat Nichols. Pat has 3 books out. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I am proving it's never too late to follow your dreams. Now, the reason I'm doing that is I actually didn't start writing until I retired from a 27-year corporate career.
Wow.
And something happened in our family. Actually, we lost a very close friend in 2000 and about around 2014. And I decided to write a story about her life, but with a happy ending. And I told my family, and they looked at me and they said, "Oh, yeah, go ahead. That sounds fine." So I spent a year writing a book, and something happened. I fell in love with writing and decided to come out of retirement and pursue a career as an author. So I studied the craft and actually rewrote that book, wrote another one. And during that period, I also came up with an idea to write a series. And that's the series that has been published, the Willow Falls series. So it's kind of a late career. I like to tell people I started my career after I was eligible for Social Security. So there's life after retirement, and it's never too late to really do what you want to do and pursue whatever.
There's a lot of great authors who got to start late. Anne George, no. Oh gosh, Anne George. There's a really great mystery writer. She started writing like in her 70s. So she had an even later start than you, and she was really good too. Okay, so tell us about your books. There are 3 of them, right? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
The Willow Falls series.
Mhm.
And let me tell you first about the town, because the little town is actually as much a part of the story as the characters.
I love that. I love when the setting is a character.
It really is. And although it's straight out of my imagination, Willow Falls is kind of a composite of a lot of little North Georgia towns. My husband and I traveled to a lot of those towns to just sort of get a feel for the vibe and the what it was like to live in a little town. So Willow Falls is in the north part of Georgia, and it's really off the beaten track. And the name comes from a falls that waterfall that is a couple miles from town, and willow oaks that line the main street. Now, in the first book, the town is in real trouble. It's dying. And the only thing in the town are one restaurant, a little cafe, Pepper's Cafe, a little shop, as Patsy's Pastries and Pretty. She sells pastries and gifts. Of course, there is a beauty salon, a general store, and an abandoned hotel, a hotel that was partially finished 30 years earlier, and a home, sort of a mansion that is being transformed into an inn. So that's the little town. And the people there, the residents, they love their town, but they're in real trouble financially. So the first book, the scenes take place in Willow Falls and in Atlanta, Georgia. So this is a map, by the way, of Willow Falls. I couldn't Google it on Google Earth to get my
Wait,
bearings.
what about this here again? I want to see it.
Yeah, this is the map. Now, this is actually after the third book because I added things to it. But I had to use this to really acclimate myself and know if I was telling somebody to turn left, it was the right direction. So that was my Google Earth map. So that's a little bit about the town. Now it has, over the 3 books, it changed a bit, and some businesses and buildings were added. But that's sort of where it starts. Now, there are 3 main characters in the series, and there are 3 women who in the beginning don't know each other. They really don't even know each other exists. And the first book is all about their lives coming together. They're drawn together by a tragedy and by a secret that only a few people know. And the first woman is Emily Hayes. She grew up in Willow Falls. She grew up as an only child, and she has always longed for a sister and begged for one, never got one. She finds out she's pregnant with twins. Now, Emily is the town's newspaper reporter. So it's a little biweekly newspaper. And she's a newspaper reporter, but her real dream is to write a novel about the town's unique history, so that the book can attract people to the town, because her parents, Emily's parents, have a mission to turn the town into a tourist attraction. And they're in the midst of turning one of the homes into an inn, and they're trying to raise money to finish the hotel, because it's kind of hard to be a tourist town if you have no place for people to stay.
Mhm.
So Emily is helping her mother refinish actually this inn. And then things just go awry. And so that's a little bit about Emily. Now, her husband is the manager of the town's general store, and it's a century-old store, sort of like Mass General Store in North Carolina, but it's struggling to survive, just like the town. And there are a lot of quirky characters. There's Maribel, who's the town gossip. There's Pepper, who's has the cafe, and sort of everybody gathers there. So it's just a typical little town. Now, the second character is Sadie Lyles. Sadie is returning to Willow Falls after spending 30 years in prison for killing the town hero who lived in the house that Emily and her mother are now transforming into an inn, and who started building the hotel. When she killed him, the funds for the hotel dried up, which is why it was never finished. So the residents blame Sadie for their troubles. She's the reason the town is failing. So she comes back to town trying to find a new normal, having spent all those years in prison. Now, the third character is Rachel Streetman. She lives in Atlanta. She wants to be an actress. That's been her lifelong dream, but she's abandoned her dream to really follow the path that her father set out for her. Her father is a very successful businessman. He owns a real estate development firm, and he's a widow, and he wants her to follow in his footsteps. So she works in his firm, and she doesn't like it. She's not happy, but she feels obligated to fulfill her father's wishes. So she is a reluctant, shall we say, reluctant employee of her father, until she meets Charlie Bricker. And he is the son of one of the clients, one of her father's clients, and who wants to build a winery and plant a vineyard and build a winery close to Willow Falls. So that's kind of where the connection begins. And the whole story is about these three women, how their lives come together, what happens in Willow Falls, what happens to Rachel as she struggles through this career that she doesn't want, and tries to make a decision. She eventually comes to a decision about what to do in her future. That's book one. Okay, so that's kind of the characters. Now, the second book, The Trouble in Willow Falls, the three women are obviously have come together. Their lives have crossed, and the town, which is on the brink of becoming a tourist attraction, is on a huge curve. A well-known, very popular travel blogger comes to town secretly and does a hit job on the town. Calls it a snore, says it's just the worst place. And then an Atlanta television station kind of follows up with the same thing. So the residents have to pull together to save their town. Now, Emily, in the meantime, has written the book, and she sent it off to publishers and is not getting any responses at all. Typical. Rachel is trying to pursue her acting career, but is finding it much more challenging than she realized, because she really doesn't have an acting resume. And one of the residents in the town in Willow Falls is a very well-known artist, and she left Willow Falls as a youth, moved to South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, became very famous, but she's retiring back in Willow Falls and turning her family home into a little museum. She finds a script in her attic that's partially finished about the history of the town. And she wants Emily to finish the script, but turn it into a play. And she believes that will help bring residents in, or tourists in, to the town, give it something important, something more than just a waterfall for people to visit. That's a little bit about book two, and it really takes place also in Atlanta, but more in Willow Falls, because the town people have to come together, pull together their resources and their talents and their time to try to save the town. Of course, all kinds of things happen all kinds of roadblocks and obstacles and things that get in their way that really make it very difficult for them to achieve what they're trying to achieve. Now, the third book, what's interesting is when my publisher and I sat down together just before the first book released, we were talking about book 3 and what would happen to make the town really sort of come unglued once they were successful. And what came to mind was a film crew coming into town. Very Georgia. And upsetting the new normal, which this town has now become a tourist attraction. And movie stars coming in, moving in, and you know, what happens to the residents? They become starstruck. They become groupies. And of course, there's subplots in there. Some things happen to Sadie and Charlie and Rachel's relationship, and there's a wedding coming up. I mean, there's all kinds of things, but it's really focuses on the residents. There are new characters in each of the 3 books, but the residents and new characters and their interaction with Hollywood and how they adapt and how they react. And Emily and Rachel become the director's liaisons as kind of the middle person to keep the residents from becoming too disruptive. So those are all the challenges there. So that's a little bit about the stories, but it's really very character driven. And there's Southern humor, there's mystery, and there's a lot of relationship development between the 3 main characters and also the townspeople.
So you mentioned you did research going to some North Georgia towns. What else did you do for research? Like, how did you research the movie set?
Well, it's interesting. Several years ago, my husband and I were on a vacation. This was actually probably 15, 20 years ago. And we were I don't remember the town, but I remember we came upon a scene. It was a blocked off street, and a big water tank went through and wet all the streets. And it was a filming of a Henry Winkler movie.
Oh.
And we stood there and watched for 1 hour while they were setting it up for Henry Winkler to run across the street into a phone booth. 1 hour. So that was that had stuck in my mind. And I remember that, and that so many things that I saw happening there helped when I was really writing this. But I also just did a lot of online research about movies, movie equipment, and what it was like. And of course, in Atlanta, you know, things like that happen all the time.
They do. So what has your family's reaction to writing this story, since it was kind of based on somebody you love?
Oh, now this is that first story. The first story, yes. And that one has not yet been published, although I've rewritten it and it is now with my publisher.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll find the light of day.
Well, that was something I was going to ask you. Is there going to be a 4th book in this series?
The 4th book is written.
It is. Gosh. And you did these fast. So when did they start coming out?
The first one was, let's see, it was January 20.
Okay.
The second was November 20.
Wow.
And the third one was just this February. So yeah, 3 books in about 2 years. Yeah.
And when's the 4th one coming out?
Don't know yet.
Okay. Is it going to be a 5th one?
Don't know.
Okay.
Maybe.
So what are you working on right now?
Right now, I'm starting a new series, and it is going to be again based on a Southern family. But it'll take place partly in the South and partly in New York prior to COVID, New York City, and it's going to be kind of a little bit of a mystery, and about a family who is estranged from the wealthy part of their family. All the women are named after flowers. It's interesting because on this book, I spent almost a month interviewing my characters, trying to figure out what is their background, why are they like they are, who have they become, and why are they at their place in life, and even the minor characters. So that was the most research mentally I've done on a series. So I'm very excited to write this one and delve into these characters and see where they take me.
That is exciting. So what kind of writer are you? Are you a plotter or a pantser?
I was a pantser to begin,
Mm-hmm.
and I've become more of a plotter with pantser tendencies. So
Okay.
whatever that means.
What does
Which
that
means
mean?
which,
What
which
does it mean to you?
to me it means I plot it out and then I start writing and see where it takes me. Now, this book, the series I'm writing now, is I did the most plotting of any of the books I've written. So it'd be interesting to see how much of a pantser I become in this. But I think all authors are like that to some degree. You know who your characters are, you know your plot line, you know the subplots, but then your characters kind of take you off in all kinds of different directions.
Yeah. Has it been easier to write the books? Is like the last one you've written, was it easier to write than the first one?
Yes, because I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
The first book, I just sat down and wrote.
Yeah.
And then I realized I needed to study.
Mhm.
So I became a student of the craft. And it's been very helpful. So my theory is every book should be better than the last. So authors should continue to study the craft and read
Makes
other
sense.
books, but also read books about writing. And
Mhm.
that is my goal, to make each book better than the last. So yeah, the last one, and this one's easier, although
Okay.
I'm much more of I'd say I'm much more critical of my own writing now.
Mhm. So is that the advice you would give like aspiring writers to study and to read?
Yes,
Yes. Okay. Anything else
absolutely.
you want to tell them, since you got
Yes,
3 books under your belt, possibly 4, maybe 5?
yes. I would say for new writers, several things are very important.
Mhm.
First of all, connect with other writers. The writing community, authors are amazing people.
Mhm.
And I have found that they are very anxious to help each other, to support each other. I belong to 2 writing organizations,
Mhm.
and we are very supportive of each other. So get connected with other writers,
Mhm.
study the craft. There are so many books, so many courses.
What are some of your favorite books? Do you remember them off the top of your head?
Well, the one that I have most recently read
Yeah.
was James Scott Bell's don't remember the exact title, but Developing Great Characters. And I've read several of his books, James
Yeah.
Scott Bell. He's really great. So those are 2 that off of the top of my head come to mind. But there are a lot of great books out there, a lot of websites,
Yeah.
blogs, a lot of writers blog about writing.
Huh.
The Blue Ridge Conference has a lot of great writers on their blog. The Right Conversation, Edie Melson's Right Conversation, has a
Mhm.
lot of great ideas from other writers. So yeah, it's like any craft. It's something that you want to continually perfect, learn, and just really become better at.
I'm putting links to James Scott Bell's books in the comments. I also put a link to Pat's books in the comments if anybody's interested in buying them. We have them in stock right now, although we had a flood, so I'm not sure if they're unpacked yet, but I think they got unpacked today. And Pat's local. She doesn't live far from us, so she can come by and sign, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Good. And have you signed our wall yet?
I have not.
Okay. So when we open back up and we have access to the wall, you can be one of the first authors to sign it, since we redid the space, because we renovated like 2 years ago, and I
Uh-huh.
felt like we just got everything where we wanted it, and then it flooded, and so now we're doing it all like over again.
Oh, how fun. I'd love to.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Let's see. If anybody has any questions in the audience, please feel free to ask them. What is your favorite book that you've written? I know that's a horrible question, because it's like asking who your favorite child is, but I won't tell your book if you don't. If
My next one. No.
your next one, perfect. I love it. Oh my goodness. So, if you want to play bookseller for a moment, what books would you recommend to people who like reading your books?
Well, if Anne Mulligan's books,
Okay.
okay, are, I would say her Chapel Springs, and
Mm-hmm.
she's local. I don't know if you've met Anne, but she's
I
local.
don't know.
And the Chapel Springs series is also about the South. Anybody who writes books about the South that have combined humor, a little bit of romance, a little mystery, and really delve into the towns and the characters and what happens to them, I would say that those are the kind of books that that my readers enjoy.
Sure.
I know the comments that I get are really primarily about the characters. They love the characters and the interaction, and especially some of the quirky characters from the town and the town itself.
Well, your books kind of reminded me a bit of like Jane Karen or Miss Julia books.
More like Mitford, yes, the Mitford series.
Yes. Mitford series, yeah.
Right. Like,
yeah.
A lot like Jane Karen. In fact, several people have said it reminds them of the Jane Karen.
Which is great. That's something to really work for, because she's so popular. And if somebody comes in and is like, I like Jane Karen, but I've read them all, and I'm like, perfect. I got Pat Nichols right here for you too.
There you go. There you go.
Not far after in the alphabet too, which is great.
Hey, that's right.
Yeah. So, and the Miss Julia ones are cute too. You should check those out.
I have not read those, but I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really fun. Quirky people, a lot of mischief, just all around good, clean fun though. So
yeah, I love quirky characters. I mean, they just add a bit of humor, and it's in fact one of the favorite characters that people mention in the Willow Falls series is Mirabelle Payne. She's the town mail carrier, but she's also the town gossip.
Oh,
So, everything, she knows everything about everybody, but she develops through the 3 books and sort of changes a bit as we get through the second and on into the 3rd book.
Very nice. Okay, Pat, I had a great time chatting with you. I can't wait to sell your books. I'm going to hand sell the crap out of them. Let's see, anything else any parting words you want to give people watching?
Any parting words? Well, I think that it's very important to just keep reading.
Keep reading.
Yes. I know that
T-shirt.
Books are wonderful, and just all books. And I just love small bookstores too. I mean, your bookstore is great.
Thank you.
And I love to support bookstores. And I just really urge everybody to support their local bookstores. Their local independent bookstores, especially like yours. Because
we say that too. Yeah, go ahead.
That's so important. Just to support folks like you and stores like you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I like to say, we Pat's books in stock, but you don't have to support Read It Again. We would love your support, but just find a local independent bookstore that you would like to shop at, and buy Pat's books there. So, all right. Well, thank you very much for doing this. And when your next book comes out, although at the frequency which you write them, I'm thinking I'll be talking to you next month. We'll have to do this again.
I look forward to it, and thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. Okay. Yeah. Well, good night, everybody.